Welcome to part 3 of the Proton Escape app tutorial. We are on our game screen right now, and we have just put a bunch of protons on our screen. Now, this atom is a carbon atom. It only needs 6, but the reason we have 12 is because we're kind of tricking the user of our app. What's going to happen is we're going to set these protons in motion, and when the user taps on one, it's going to appear as if it shows up down here. We're going to hide all of these protons to begin with at the beginning of the app. These will be moving, and when you tap on them, it will disappear, and one of these will show up. The twin of it will show up. So let's go ahead into our block section. We need to do a lot of coding. So we currently have this when button 1 is clicked, open screen 1, and we're just going to drag that up here to kind of get it out of the way. What we really need to focus on now is our game tab. When the game is initialized, we need to hide all of those protons that are hanging out with the neutrons right now. So I'm going to click when game is initialized. I've clicked over here game to get this option. When the game is initialized, we need to set the specific, they are the even protons, the even balls after number 6. We need to set those to be invisible. So we're going to start with ball number 8, and we're going to make ball 8 invisible. If you scroll down, you'll see set ball 8 visible to, and we're going to put a false in there. So the reason we're not doing 1 through 6, those balls are the neutrons, and we're not coding those at all. Ball 7 is a proton that's going to fly around. Ball 8 is going to be invisible at first. Ball 9 is a proton that's going to fly around. Ball 10 is invisible. So you'll start to see a pattern here in a few minutes. All right, so we're going to set ball 8 visible to false. We don't want to see it, and that's in the logic section over here. So we're going to say, nope, we don't want it to be visible. Now here is a quick trick. We're going to right click and say duplicate, and we're going to do this 6 times. All right, so we've got 6 total, and then we're going to actually select from the drop down to be the different balls that need to be invisible at first. So we have 5, and one more is 6. And we're just going to change these, ball 8, ball 10, ball 12, 14, 16, and 18. So now when the game starts, all of these will be invisible. So these are the red protons that are sitting on top of the blue nucleus, or the nucleus that has all of the blue neutrons in it. So the next thing we need to do is say when the certain other balls, the odd balls, are touched, they need to be set invisible, and then these ones need to become visible. All right, so let's go over to ball 7. When ball 7 is touched, so I'm going to click on that, we need 2 things to happen. We need to set ball 7 to be invisible, so go back to ball 7, set ball 7 to be invisible, which means set ball 7 visible false, again with the logic control, or the logic component up here. Logic is false. So ball 7 is not visible anymore, but then we also want ball 8 to be visible. So I'll click on ball 8. We want ball 8 to be visible. So set ball 8 visible to true. So we can find that again in the logic section up here. And what we can do now that we have this one, is we can duplicate this whole thing. So I'm going to right click and say duplicate. So that's what happens when ball 7 is touched. When ball 9 is touched, remember it's the odd ones that we want to disappear. So 9 then is going to be invisible, false, visible. And then ball 10 is going to be, I gotta find it here, okay, true. All right, so I'm going to pause the video. You can do the same thing. We're going to do it for all 6 of our protons, and I'll see you back here in a minute. Okay, so hopefully you have something that looks like this, and you'll notice a pattern because all of the odd balls up here, when they are touched, the odd number goes false, not visible. The even number right after it goes true. So we have ball 7 and 8, 9, 9 and 10, 11, 11 and 12, 13, 13 and 14, 15, 15 and 16, 17, 17 and 18. So double check those numbers. It's really important that you have all of those details correct. So that means that these odd ones out here, so this is like 7. If I click, I can see which one is which, so it highlights it. So this is ball 7. When ball 7 is tapped, it's going to go invisible, and then ball 8 is going to become visible. So ball 8 is actually, it's in here, it's just not highlighted. It's not easy to see it there. Which way did it go? Now I really want to find that one. Well, it's in there somewhere. I'm going to click on it again. It's probably behind another one, so we can't see it. Let me try it with a different one. So this is ball 11. Ball 12 should be right in the center there. So when ball 11 is tapped, it's going to disappear, and ball 12 is going to show up in the nucleus. So that's how we're going to trick our user into thinking that they're actually moving the proton. We're catching the proton that has escaped and sending it back to the nucleus. All right, so what we need to do now is get these protons to move. And before that, you know what would be a good idea would be to test out our app. And I know I had said I would show you this in the last video, but we ran out of time. So right now I'm going to show you how to do that. On your phone or your mobile device, you can open the Thunkable app and click on the Scan QR Code button. In the browser window, Thunkable Live, underneath this test section here, Thunkable Live gives you a QR code. That's what you scan with your phone or mobile device, and then you'll be able to test out your app. Make sure to test a couple things. Make sure these buttons work, that you've coded them correctly, and that when you tap one of these, the ones next to the neutrons will appear. So that should work at this point. If it doesn't, it will after we do the next steps. So the next thing we have to do is to get these protons to move around. So in our block section, we need to make a procedure. And that procedure is going to tell us, it's going to tell the app to move all of those protons to random places. So I'm going to click this top one under procedure. It's a purple block. And we're going to call this procedure protons. And that's just going to mean that the protons will start moving. So when that procedure is called, we want to do these specific things. I'm going to move it down so we have a little bit more space. We want to move, so we're going to start with ball number 7, because these are the ones that have to move. We need to move it to a certain place. So call ball 7, move to, and we want a random integer or a random number between 1 and 250. I'm going to explain why that matters in a second here. Oops. So I'm looking for math, and I'm looking for a random integer from 1, and it currently has 100 in it. We want 250. I'm going to duplicate this because I want that same exact thing here for letter Y. Now, what does that mean? So this means that ball 7 is going to move to a random location on the screen. If this is a 0 and there's 250 across this way and 250 across this way, when you move, the location is kind of like playing Battleship, where you kind of match up the horizontal and the vertical location. So if it was 125 and 125, that would be right smack dab in the center of our screen. So that's how they figure the location out of where it's going to be randomly jumping to. So we're going to right click on this purple section here to duplicate it, and we're going to do this all the way through ball 17. So we're going 7, 9, 11, 13, 15, and 17. So I'm just duplicating this, and you'll notice that the canvas that we are putting our coding on gets as big as you need it to be. So you can just keep scrolling and you'll get lots of space. All right, so now when protons is called, we want all of these odd numbers starting at 7. So 7, 9, 11, 13. We want all of those to just kind of run to different locations. 13, 15, and 17. The way that works is we need a timer. We need a timer that will fire every so often and say, okay, now this ball is going to move to a different location. I'm going to go back to my design screen and go under sensors. I'm going to click on clock and drag it over to my screen. Now it's an invisible component, which means it shows up down here. And we want to make sure that the timer interval probably is around 700. And when we go back to our blocks, we want to go to that clock that we pulled out earlier. And we want to say when clock timer starts, we want to call this procedure. So if I have enough time in my video here, I'm just going to slide this over And there we go. So now those protons will move. I will see you in the next video.